2 online questions, and then I'll take questions from in here.
Yes, thanks, Jasmine. So the first one, I think, is for Aracha. If I've pronounced your name wrong, I apologise. The first one is, how can your results be extrapolated to harsher environments? For example, considering the different local conditions in terms of waves and current action. And that outside of water weight can vary differently or greatly from weight measured in water owing to the differences in buoyancy. And the second part to that question is, do you monitor the loss of latex in the samples which might affect the colonisation and subsequent growth?
Can you repeat the last question, sorry? Do you monitor?
Yes, so it's, do you monitor the loss of latex in the samples which might affect the colonisation?
Okay, I'm going to start with the last question. This is something that they are now be analyzing by Polymath in the Basque Country, because they are now looking into a micro photographs or microscopic identification on how this latex is remain in the panels. But apart from that, we also, but I didn't have time to expose the results. We also analyzed how much latex we removed from the panels apart from the biofouling. And I think this is a very good question, and this is something that we are going to include in our discussion. Yeah. And the first question was, sorry?
It was around...
the oceanographic variables. Yeah. This is something that we are not including in the results, because we are now measuring only the effectiveness. But if you want to transport or to translate into a massive or into a more a huge area, this is something, of course, you have to take into account, because, for example, if these panels are located, for example, in the HARS lab, the results are very, very different. Even in our very small area, in the Pasaia Harbor, close to San Sebastian, we found also very differences in the inner and in the outer area. So we have in ASTI, in the Basque Country, we have monitor the different variables in the water column. I mean, the transparency, the oxygen, the temperature. So, for example, in the harbor area, we know that the pollution, the transparency is lower, and the pollution is higher than the outside part of the harbor. So, of course, this is something that we are considering. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions from in here? Chris? And then there's one more.
Hi there, Chris McCabe from DEFRA and the Insight SAG. My question is for Joseph, please. You talked about the ROV data being a goldmine that was sometimes difficult to access. Part one is, how do we improve that access, if we can, to that data goldmine? And the second part of that is, when you did get access to that goldmine, you talked about having so much of the archive data, but that would have been, I imagine that was video data and therefore quite large. Did you use machine learning or some other method to get through all that data quickly and to utilize it, or was that a bit of an obstacle as well? Thanks very much.
Yeah, so in answer to the first part, getting more access to it, or the hurdles, I can't really answer that, because I make my approaches to industry, and I think often I'm dealing with people who want to provide the data, but it gets kicked up to legal, and they maybe don't. I don't think because they've actually got anything to hide, it's just a kind of their own precautionary principle. In terms of the archive, this is a unique case, because normally what we do is we get dumped a hard drive that has a load of videos with very long file names, and I have to work out what the hell they mean. This was a big searchable one where I can put in the name of the component, and then it's filtered by year, by survey type, etc., etc. We were actually discussing this on the drive over today. Could we use machine learning to help us look through it? But I guess the problem is all the different surveys are taken over different years. They tend to use different survey companies, so every single video looks very different. And this is, at this point anyway, just one of those things that someone needs to sit through it and work out, because there's some nuances between what makes good photogrammetry data and what makes bad photogrammetry data, and we have tried using machine learning to sift through that, and it's not necessarily very easy.
Okay. There was another question up there. Yeah. Wait, just wait for the microphone, please. And if you could just say your name and your institution.
Yes, Annemette Jorgensen from Eco-Effective Strategies in the Netherlands. I had a question to you, Debbie, on the marine mammals. I got you talked about the structures being a trap for fish potentially if there are lots of marine mammals nearby. Does that mean that you assume that there are no, say, additional production of fish due to the structures? It's this eternal discussion about the production and attraction of structures, and I was wondering how you're dealing with that. If what your assumptions are, and what also your impression would be. I mean, if there is really production, you might also get the structures to help creating more of a higher population of marine mammals, but I was wondering if you could reflect on that.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I think the key thing, I guess, is that I guess I wasn't trying to conclude that they are ecological traps or not ecological traps. I think it totally depends on the situation, and I think it's more that there can be, they change, obviously, the fish communities that are there, and there could be increased production. I think it depends on species, etc., etc. But it's more that taking into account the marine mammals being there and the importance. If you've got a haul-out nearby, you may pick it as somewhere to look at, okay, what's the effective structure on these reefs, artificial reefs. But actually, you're going to go there and there's potentially not much fish there, because any fish that would be there would probably get hoovered up. So I doubt, I don't know, this is absolutely opinion rather than scientific basis, but I doubt that in very, very near shore, they may not be able to produce anything, because if they're literally on the highway, in some of these areas, there's 3,000 seals going past every day, So I think it's more that there's a lot of nuance in it, rather than they are or not kind of. I think it very much depends on the area, but it's just that if you don't include, the marine mammal component and the potential top-down pressures, then we actually can't understand what's going on.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Dickon? Oh, there's one up there. Go. If you go up there first and then... Sorry.
Sorry, Dickon. Bert Volkema again, SSE. So I think it's for Tom and for Joop. Lots of people working on detection, monitoring type equipment, identification. As an outsider, it feels that there is a large potential for isolation, each group doing their own thing. At the same time, we would like to be able to compare all this data. So my question is, what is your sense of the amount of harmonization and standardization that's going on? And maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Is that going well? Do you have a good feeling about that? Are we working towards similar methodologies? Or is there work to do there?
I'll take that. Yeah. Okay. So when the first wind farms were built, every country made up their own monitoring program and sample methods, sample sizes, mesh bag sizes, lab standards. So we have been collating all these data in a joint data set. That's the BISAR data set of the ICES Working Group of Marine Benthill and Renewable Energy Devices. WG-MBRED. It's published, it's open access now online. Send me an email if you want, you can't find it. And if you look at this, you clearly see there's a lot of variation in this. So that's the situation where we are in now. But I do think there's an opportunity for countries that are now starting these types of monitoring programs to not do what we did, at least not all these differences, but come together with all the countries that are now starting to build offshore wind farms, and go for a standard in this, because it's not much difference between the methods, but enough to complicate comparisons. So there I would absolutely go for a standard, but it's not there. Actually 2 weeks ago we had an ICES workshop on exactly this topic. We discussed how we can learn from each other and go for standardization in data monitoring like this. But for video, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure there is a standard method. We're probably guilty of bringing in a new method and complicating matters even worse. You know? But we're trying to push things. So I guess if you settle for one thing, then there always needs to be someone pushing for something new. But yes, there certainly is room for a bit more standardization, I would say.
I do see opportunities to link, it's more between us now, while taking our sample, we can take video and you can model that stuff. So there's a clear win.
And there's
connect these things.
Definitely room for both approaches, because what we do is limited to the large conspicuous fauna. And you know, when I look at a wind turbine jacket, I see 5 species, 10 species max, whereas I think you're probably looking at a lot more than that. So.
Yeah, 300 to 500.
Yeah, exactly. So there's room for that, and obviously there's bringing in things like eDNA. So yeah, there's a suite of opportunities.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. We're going to skip the last question because it's time for tea and coffee and posters and networking. But before we all go, I'd just like to thank all our speakers for a very interesting and fantastic session. Thank you very much.